Hey, I'm Blair Best. It's Friday here on The Story, and today marks the final day in the federal trial in Portland over whether or not President Trump has the authority to deploy the National Guard to the ICE building, when to expect a ruling, plus a bombshell from Oregon's Attorney General related to a former Clackamas County commissioner charged with multiple felonies. But first, a new ruling today requires the Trump administration to use contingency funds to keep food stamp benefits flowing despite the shutdown. When we can expect that to happen, plus highlights from my one-on-one sit-down with Oregon Senator Wyden. It's our big story tonight. Two federal judges on the East Coast rule that the Trump administration must continue to pay for SNAP by using emergency reserves during the government shutdown. It's a result of a lawsuit from Democratic state attorneys general or governors from 25 states, including Oregon and Washington. The feds previously said the emergency reserves were only for paying benefits in the wake of disasters, but those judges, both appointed by former President Obama, disagreed. A federal judge in Boston writing in her opinion, quote, defendant's suspension of SNAP payments was based on the erroneous conclusion that the contingency funds could not be used to ensure continuation of SNAP payments. This court has now clarified that defendants are required to use those contingency funds as necessary for the SNAP program. She ordered the feds to give her an update by Monday on whether they will use emergency reserve money to provide reduced SNAP benefits or use that money plus additional funds to provide full SNAP benefits for the month of November. Now, for those of you who receive the benefits, expect delays in the money showing up in your account because this legal limbo means it could be a week or more before the money can work its way from the feds to the state and onto your card. Oregon Attorney General Dan Rayfield writing today, this sends a message that no administration can use hunger as a political weapon. No Oregon family should have to wonder how they'll eat because of a government shutdown. Those decisions are a reminder that following the law and common decency still matter. Okay, as of tonight, it's not clear if the Trump administration will appeal the rulings. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek writing, any appeal of this ruling would show that the administration is allowing Americans to go hungry. The federal government should not delay or spend another penny elsewhere before the deadline provided by the court. More than 750,000 Oregonians shouldn't have to wait for court deadlines. Do it now. And in a post on Truth Social today, President Trump suggested the government would comply with the rulings, but wrote that the administration needs more clarity. And today is day 31 of the government shutdown, the second longest in U.S. history. And it's resulted in political finger-pointing as to who is to blame. Is it the Democrats, who have voted down the GOP funding resolution to reopen the government more than a dozen times, or Republicans, for refusing to budge on certain health care assistance? Well, today I sat down with Democratic U.S. Senator Wyden. He has voted against Republicans' continued resolution to end this shutdown. Here's what he said it would take to earn his support. What changes would you need to see to support a funding bill? What are your specific priorities that you would need to see be included in order for you to vote yes?
Well, I need to see a commitment to work it out in a bipartisan kind of fashion. I just mentioned healthcare. We're also dealing with food and hunger questions. We had a favorable ruling a couple of hours ago because there's a contingency fund. That's what I want to see.
Critics say shutdowns are often motivated by political strategy instead of public service. How would you respond to that?
Donald Trump is very different than anybody that I've served with, and I've served with a number of presidents. He basically gets up in the morning and decides he wants to do something, and then he goes to pursue it. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people really see him as a king, because he doesn't want to be bound by the rules of what the founding fathers came up with.
What message do you have for all Oregonians impacted by this shutdown? Even the critics who say you and other Democrats are not doing enough to end it.
I say I'm interested in working with anybody who wants to get this resolved. And as I said on health care, I've shown in the past that I have bipartisan ideas. I can get them passed and I can do it again.
We also talked about the impact of this shutdown on everyday Oregonians, especially those who rely on food stamp benefits each month. Again, 750,000 Oregonians. As we mentioned earlier, some SNAP money will be available to people next month, though not likely by this weekend.
My message is that we cannot have the status quo where Trump is just stonewalling and there's no food assistance for the very vulnerable. The reality is, if kids who are low income and may have some health issues, or seniors of modest incomes get sick, that costs everybody a whole lot more. If you have institutional care for the elderly, young people who can't learn. The reality is there's $6 billion under a obligatory program that is locked in to the process of the United States Congress. We ought to use that money and to help people who are hungry.
You co-sponsored a bill called the Keep SNAP and WIC Funded Act of 2025. What would that do, and does anything in that change now given the federal judge's ruling?
Well, it certainly is supported by the judge's ruling. I mean, the judge's ruling is we need to make sure that vulnerable people, this has never been done in American history, to have something like this, an arbitrary cutoff, and the judge's ruling today supports us, and our bill is in line with it.
Does anything change within the bill?
I haven't had a chance to look at the ruling, but I think they're consistent.
I also asked him about the potential deployment of the National Guard and the legal battle over whether Trump can send troops to the Portland ice building.
Well, it's been fairly predictable. I've said from the very beginning that my concern was Trump was interested in inciting violence. We are overwhelmingly a safe community. Obviously, there are some concerns in terms of fentanyl and homelessness and the like, but we're doing a lot better, and overwhelmingly, we're a safe and vibrant community. Donald Trump doesn't like that. I think he was hoping that there would be violence and he could come on in and act like a king and tell everybody what to do.
What is the estimated cost to taxpayers for deploying the National Guard to Portland? You had previously called for a formal inquiry in these costs.
Yes, Senator Merkley and I have requested it. We just made it a couple of days ago. We don't have a sense yet what the number will be, but it is going to be pretty pricey.
And before we let the senator go, we asked him about the recent arrest of Chauncey Billups, the Portland Trail Blazers head coach. Okay, some scandal has been surrounding the Portland Trail Blazers lately. The FBI arrested the head coach, Chauncey Billups, this month for charges connected to allegedly rigged poker games tied to the mafia. We're learning today his new defense lawyer is a former Trump lawyer. You're a big Blazers fan. What was your reaction to his arrest?
Well, it obviously was a very sad few days. You know, the Blazers are getting up, and they've got a young team. They're going to be an exciting team. I'm going tonight, but certainly we have to draw a line in the sand and make it clear that illegal gambling is absolutely unacceptable.
So what reforms or oversight do you think Congress should consider to guard against abuse of insider information in sports?
Well, this is just starting out as a debate. In other words, it's only been a few days. But I think, the key is to have clear rules that everybody understands, and I think there's some questions about whether that was the case here, and then you have strong enforcement.
We reached out to Republican Representative Cliff Bentz, Oregon's only Republican in Congress. He was unavailable to talk with us today. We are working on scheduling an interview with him next week, so stay tuned for that. Well, today marked the third and final day of the federal trial in downtown Portland over the deployment of National Guard troops. Both sides made closing arguments this afternoon. Lawyers for the state of Oregon arguing the deployment is unnecessary and unlawful, while Trump administration lawyers say the president has the authority and that the troops are needed. Kyle Boshi is outside the courthouse tonight. Kyle, what stood out to you today?
Well, prior to closing arguments, some interesting witnesses called by the federal government, one being the head of the National Guard, the other being the regional director for ICE. This woman oversees ICE operations for Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. She supports the deployment of the National Guard, but provided some interesting figures that I hadn't seen before. One being the number of ICE employees working at the facility here in Portland. She said there are roughly 20 to 30 ICE officers directly involved in removal operations. Additionally, she explained their goal, 30 arrests per day in the 3-state region. That's double what the target was last year.
Interesting new data. So now that the trial is wrapped up, what can you tell us about when a ruling will come down?
Well, we're all waiting. Judge Karen Immerget said she would consider the case and make a decision by Sunday. There is some time sensitivity here, though. The National Guard is on hold. Its deployment paused because of a temporary restraining order which expires late Sunday night. As a result, there's an expectation she'll make a ruling before that.
And no matter which way she rules this weekend, the expectation is that it will be appealed.
Legal observers all tend to agree, yes. No matter how this goes, it will be appealed. The losing side will appeal to the Ninth Circuit, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Okay, Kyle Aboshi downtown for us tonight. Kyle, thank you. Today, the Multnomah County District Attorney weighed in on Mayor Keith Wilson's announcement that the city will resume enforcement of its camping ban starting tomorrow. The city says officers will first use education and outreach to enforce the ban, though if citations are issued or arrests are made, that the case would end up with the DA. A person can be fined or arrested, for example, for blocking sidewalks, setting fires, or dumping trash.
What's going to happen initially is they're going to do citations under this time, place, manner, and those citations will require them to come to court. Our office will review that, and then from there we're going to look for every opportunity to dismiss or get rid of that case as long as that person is making efforts and we are connecting them with shelter, getting them off the streets.
Portland police say at the direction of the mayor, their focus will be education and then citations, not arrests. If we do see people jailed for violations, the most they could face would be a week plus a $100 fine. Well, the Oregon Department of Justice says a former Clackamas County commissioner charged with several felonies may have fled the country with her young son. The DOJ says they received information showing Melissa Fireside is no longer at her listed address out in Morrow County. Fireside was arraigned this past March on multiple felony charges, including theft, computer crime, and forgery. She was released under a condition that required her to remain in Oregon unless she had court permission to leave. So now the DOJ filed a motion in court to revoke that release. Fireside is believed to have taken her 9-year-old son with her. The child is not believed to be in danger. AG Dan Rayfield wrote in a statement, "Our top concern right now is the safety and well-being of this child. We are working closely with law enforcement partners here and at the federal level to locate Ms. Fireside and ensure she is held accountable under Oregon law. No one should be able to evade justice by crossing a border." Fireside's jury trial was scheduled to begin on December 2nd. If Fireside is confirmed to be outside the United States, investigators say bringing her back to face justice may be challenging, depending on the country that she's in. Well, coming up next on the story, a controversial natural gas pipeline in the Northwest got the go-ahead from a federal appeals court recently to expand. And it has environmental advocates sounding the alarm. What it could mean for climate goals. That's when the story returns. Well, a number of politicians and environmental groups across the Northwest are raising concerns about a federal court clearing the way for a major natural gas pipeline expansion. The GTN pipeline, short for Gas Transmission Northwest, runs from Canada through Idaho, Washington, and Oregon. And the expansion would boost capacity to power an additional 750,000 homes. John Adams has the story.
Columbia Riverkeeper tells me this ruling is a major step backward, saying the federal government's approval of this project runs counter to climate goals here in the Pacific Northwest. As Oregon and Washington look to move away from a reliance on oil and natural gas, a U.S. appeals court ruling is paving the way for more natural gas to be moved through the Pacific Northwest. The GTN Express project would expand the capacity of the GTN pipeline that currently runs from Canada through Washington and Oregon.
We need less fracked gas. We need less climate-wrecking fossil fuel in the Pacific Northwest, not more of it.
Columbia Riverkeeper is one of the organizations that has pushed back against the project, calling it unnecessary, harmful to the environment, and potentially dangerous. TC Energy, the company that operates the GTN pipeline, was previously in the national spotlight when its Keystone XL pipeline project failed to gain regulatory approval and was canceled in 2021. Oregon and Washington have both filed lawsuits to block the GTN Express, which expands capacity at multiple compressor stations, including one in Sherman County, Oregon.
It would push 150,000 more decatherms of gas a day through that pipeline, which is old. That's about the equivalent of putting 700,000 more cars on the road.
GTN Express has also seen opposition from some politicians in both Oregon and Washington. Oregon Senator Wyden expressed disappointment with the U.S. Appeals Court ruling.
I just think it's anti-consumer. I just don't think it's in the interest of those folks in rural Oregon.
Without help from the federal government, Johnson believes states in the Pacific Northwest will have to take it upon themselves to reach their own climate targets in the coming decades.
Oregon and Washington and NGOs are going to double down on their efforts within the state, using state authority to make sure that indeed fracked gas use is phased out.
Supporters of this pipeline expansion say it's needed to support energy reliability as the area transitions to cleaner energy. Now, we did reach out to TC Energy, the company behind the pipeline, and we have not yet heard back. The state of Oregon, the state of Washington, and the nonprofits will have an opportunity to appeal this ruling to the U.S. Supreme Court. In Portland, John Adams, KGW News.
Okay, Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino joins us now. Matt, are trick-or-treaters getting any treats in the forecast?
All the treats are in their candy bags.
Okay, are the candy bags wet?
Yeah, they are. They're really wet. Yeah, because the rain started pretty much on cue at about 6 o'clock, spreading from north and west to south and east. You can see it's raining in Vancouver right now. Our camera at the Springs of the waterfront, 53 degrees. Winds aren't bad. Temperatures aren't bad, but it's wet. This is Portland, also wet, 53 degrees and pretty much the same as Vancouver, and it will be raining for the duration of the trick-or-treating hours. The good news is the heavier rain will come later. That's as good of a treat as I can offer the trick-or-treaters out there. Look at all the green on Doppler radar descending across the area right now, and you can see the edge, though, and it hasn't really progressed that much in the last half hour or so, reaching from east of Portland, up around Sandy, down to about Salem, but it doesn't really go any farther east at this time. All rain across Yamhill County, Washington County, Multnomah County right now, and that's how it's going to be as we go through the night. Now, this is hour-by-hour rainfall for Salem, and yes, it has begun by 7 o'clock, 0.05 of an inch, so that's in the next 10 minutes. And then the amounts are all generally under 1/10 of an inch an hour until we get to 10, 11 o'clock, and then it ramps up a bit, but the really heavy rain will fall after midnight into the early morning hours. So again, that's the treat. We only have light rain to contend with for Halloween this year. Here are the rainfall totals so far. Again, it has been light, just a couple hundreds in Hillsborough, a little bit more for Portland and Vancouver, but so far nothing measurable in McMinnville or Aurora or in Salem. But the coast is really seeing it add up nearly an inch already up at Astoria, where it's been raining since this afternoon. Now, as this cold front moves through, the winds are going to begin to blast through eastern Oregon. So there's a wind advisory here for Saturday. There is a high surf advisory along the Oregon coast for Saturday. The breakers will be up around 20, 25 feet. So if you're going to be on the beach, right? There's going to be big waves. Sneaker waves also a threat, Blair. So anybody on the beach this weekend, are you going to the beach this weekend?
Not this weekend. I don't think so.
Okay, good call, because it's going to be kind of nasty tomorrow. Gets better, though, on Sunday as this front moves through and high pressure begins to build on in. So this is really the main weather player for the weekend. Here's the modeling on it. You see it clears out by early afternoon, so that's when we begin to get some sunshine, and things will be looking up at that point. But before that happens, we end up with an inch and a half in the valley, so it is going to be quite the soaker as we begin November, which is one of our wettest months of the year, with quite a bit of rain. And it gets rainy again next week, but there will be a break. Today's high was 60, about average for Halloween, and 67 down in Eugene and Roosevelt for the hot spots in the state. It is 53 right now. Freezing level will be dropping, but this won't be a big snow producer for the Oregon Cascades, unlike last weekend. Okay, the rain will turn to showers on the coast, and that'll happen sooner there. So by mid-morning, you should see some sun breaks. For the valleys, rainy tonight and then showers tomorrow. Sun breaks in the afternoon. Look for fog on Sunday morning. Cascades rainy and windy, gusts to 40 miles an hour. The snow level drops to 4,000 feet late tomorrow night, but by then the precipitation is ending. We've got the rain. It'll turn to showers tomorrow. We'll get some sun breaks, get up to 62. Fog, then sun on Sunday. Don't forget, we get an extra hour of sleep on Sundays. We go back to standard time, so that's a good thing. And Monday looks dry too, Blair, but after that, it gets wet again.
Okay, Matt. Thanks so much.
You bet. Have a good weekend.
You too. Well, coming up next on the story, we take you to the Portland Japanese Garden, where peak fall colors are on full display. A segment that will ease you into your Friday night. We all need that, right? Stick around. That's when the story returns.
This is really, really stunning.
Quite peaceful. That's pretty nice. My name is Eric Brody, and I've been coming up to the Japanese garden for the better part of 40 years. Yeah, that'll be nice, with the tree centering. I used to be a black and white photographer, you know, everything black and white, and now I do a lot of color.
It's Ray Shirley, and I'm from Beaverton, and as a photographer, a lot of us think we have to drive all the way to Colorado or something for these fall colors, and sometimes it's hard to realize that like we have some of the best right here in downtown. Yeah, it's probably the most famous photographed maple tree there is. Awesome. Couldn't be better.
I've done the tree many years ago, many times. It's an unusually beautiful tree.
I'm surprised how good the colors here actually are this year.
Honestly, couldn't be better for fall colors.
If you live in Portland, you kind of take it for granted.
Amazing.
It's gorgeous.
Definitely amazing.
The garden is a magical place. I've always thought of Portland as the fall. That was my favorite time of year, and still is.
A lot of times it seems like in the Northwest is if we don't get the cold snap and then the rains start, just everything just kind of goes to brown and mush, and it's like, and then you kind of shoot yourself because you didn't bother to get out because it just wasn't perfect yet.
I like it best in the snow. That's when it's staggeringly beautiful. It just blows my mind. It's really quite wonderful, peaceful. Yeah, that'll be nice. All right.
It's awesome today. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Just beautiful. Well, that's the end of our show, folks. Thanks so much for watching. Timbers 360 is coming your way next. And don't forget, everyone has a story to tell, no matter how spooky. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 on our TV app, KGW Plus, which you can download for free right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a happy Halloween. I'll see you right back here in November on Monday night at 6:30.